Hi everyone, I'm Sam, the nursery manager for Fleet Farming and Ideas for Us, and also part of our edible landscape team. I'm here today at the Asbury United Methodist Church, this beautiful garden where we have berries growing here. We have some broccoli, kale growing, bok choys, arugula, fruit trees and herbs, and much more. Today we will be joined by Wei Nelson, and we'll be discussing soil and soil health. Soil surrounds us, it's very much alive, and it'll be around before us and after us. Hi everyone, I'm here today on this beautiful January day with the wonderful Wei Nelson.
My background is I'm a mechanical engineer. Spent most of my career in aerospace and defense, but I've always been interested in gardening. About a few years ago, we decided to get out of that business, and when we started publishing a magazine, that's me and my wife, and we published Florida Gardening Magazine for 20 years. So we've got a pretty good background for growing things here in Florida. But in the process, we've been always concerned with what we're seeing, what's happening in agriculture. It's no secret that we're absolutely destroying the soils that we depend on for our nutrition. And so through that out of time, I first became very interested in agriculture, in biochar. And I spent a few years in that, and then that led me into various things, and finally I ended up finding out about the new type of agriculture called regenerative agriculture. That I've gotten into that very deeply, and the more I've found about that, and the more excited I've become, and how that has the potential of doing so much for us. At the very front is that we can actually regenerate the soil. That's where the name comes from, is regenerative. By using these processes that they're now using in this regenerative agriculture, we can build the soil up instead of destroy it. So that's where we're at the point right now.
So for the folks at home, how would you describe regenerative agriculture?
Regenerative agriculture is based on some new principles that have been researched over the last 10 years, basically. Some very, very, very new information that's come out. And what it does is basically the philosophy of conventional agriculture is to feed the plants and watch the plants and take care of the plants and harvest the plants. Regenerative agriculture takes the position that is the soil life, the biological life in the soil is the real issue. That's where the plants really get their food from. That's where they get all of the other things that they need. So we're learning to put our emphasis basically on the biology in the soil rather than the plants. And then the idea is you build the biology right, that'll take care of the plants.
So for the folks at home, how would you describe building this soil that is able to be self-sufficient for the plants and feed the plants?
Regenerative agriculture is built on several basic principles. One of which is no-till. Never do anything to break the ground up. And of course, that's exactly in contradiction to what conventional agriculture does, where they go in and plow the fields and everything. But we have elements in the soil that is like fungus, that has little strands that go up for feeding in that. And we plow and we just break all that up, and we got to start all over again. That's the first principle. The second principle is cover crops. And the sideline issue with that is never leave the ground bare. Second principle. And we primarily do that with cover crops. And the cover crops are very essential because the roots of the cover crops are helping to stimulate the microbes in the soil. And we're growing that as well. Plus their root system are always putting more organic material in the soil. Okay. Third issue is, let me think about this for a minute. Of course, we never leave the the soil bare. We build up the soil with the microbes. We know the type of microbes that we need. We primarily need 4 types of microbes, 2 of which are going to happen pretty naturally. But the 2 that are most important to us to begin with are bacteria and fungi, primarily mycorrhizae fungi. And the 2 other are protozoa and nematodes. Now, I say nematodes and people get all kinds of excited because they know the nematodes in the soil in Florida. But in reality, just like everything else in biology, there's only 2 nematodes that really affect the crops in Florida. But there are hundreds of kinds of nematodes. And what we're doing with those 2, you've got an ecological system built with the microbes, and the bacteria and the fungi are important for the feeding, but the protozoa are there to actually feed on the bacteria, and the nematodes are there to keep the protozoa in check. So you've got a little jungle going on right beneath our feet, but you need a microscope to see it. So that's kind of the process that we're building on, okay? We have learned, but by doing this, we can provide all of the nutrition the plants need without having any extra put in from the outside. That means no fertilizer. 2, we can build up the resistance of the plants to the point that insects cannot feed on them. No insecticides. The same thing happens in the soil, so we don't have any disease in the soil. And lastly, the nutrition is higher in the foods that we're growing this way. So it's a win-win-win-win-win instead of just a win-win, okay?